Hello and welcome to Rolling with Two. I'm Will, and with me as always is the person who raises her robots with love, batteries, and duct tape.
Sarah.
And today we're doing a two-player perspective and accessibility for raising robots. This is the Deluxe Edition.
This is the Deluxe Edition.
If you're curious about our opinion, check out our other video called Rolling with Reviews, Raising Robots. Sarah, tell us a bit about this game.
All right. In Raising Robots, the players are young inventors assembling a wide range of useful robots. Each round, players simultaneously choose and perform 2 or more actions at variable power levels. Sometimes that power is shared amongst all players. Over the course of 8 rounds, players will create a tableau of robot cards, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. Okay, so how does the game change for 2 players?
So in all player counts, you'll use different energy cards. And they'll say on the energy cards, but eventually once you figure out what your player count is, you'll have 8 specifically. And those are...
And it's the phase cards, not the energy cards.
Those are the energy cards. Phase cards are the 5 actions. You always play with those. Energy cards are the different ones. There's 12 of them.
Oh, okay,
and you only grab 8 of them. And you'll have to figure out your player count.
Right.
There is a minor bot, and what
for 2 players.
For 2 players, and you'll take the 5 phase cards that have one of each of the basic actions. You'll take another set of those for a different player count, shuffle them up, put 2 face up, then 3 face down. On the 3rd card, you'll put 1 cube. On the 4th card, you'll put 2 cubes. Essentially what will happen is each turn you'll flip up a card from left to right. So the first 2 you already know aren't going to be flipped. And whatever it reveals, is where the energy cube will go. So once you reveal the card that has 2 cubes on it, you have to reshuffle those cards and place them out again. So every 3rd turn, essentially, is when the bot gets reset.
Correct. And you reveal those cards after both players have revealed their phase cards. So, yeah, you don't reveal it ahead of time.
But the nice thing is you have some knowledge of...
Right.
Because a lot of times a bot will come in and you have no idea what it's going to do. It doesn't either. It'll just flip and just do stuff.
Yeah, it's just random. But here they actually gave the 2 players some ways to strategize.
Yes.
Okay. So, issues at a 2-player count. Even though the bot does a really good job of allowing you to plan, you're still probably not going to see the same level of energy cubes out there as you would at a higher player count. So what that means is just, it just limits the power level and the variety of the actions that you can do throughout the game.
Yeah, because you're going to be guaranteed 2 actions. Because you'll flip up 2 energy tokens, or cards, so you know you'll have energy for 2 actions. And that's what you're going to put 2 phase cards. The bonus actions, in other words, the other 3 that you haven't picked, will only be possible if there are cubes on those phases.
Right.
So that's where she was saying the variety of actions could be more limited in a 2-player count.
Right, exactly. But what it does well, this might be specific to us or a few other people, is while the game is meant to be played simultaneous, should you have a need to play it turn-based like we need to, the 2-player count's perfect for that, because then you could just take more time to do what you need to do. Because like with Will's vision, it's just, I have to help him. So it's just easier if, I take a turn, he'd take a turn, that's the round, rather than, well, actually, there's just no way for us to do it simultaneous.
Yeah, but this could also work for players that aren't as experienced or don't feel very confident, need someone to help them. The expert person could easily take their turn and then sit there with someone and guide them through the actions. It
would be a good way to learn the game to do it turn-based rather than the simultaneous play, because we do think for this game to work really well at the higher player counts, because I think it can play up to 6.
Yes.
You would need 6 highly knowledgeable in the game, experienced with the game, and fast at making decisions for that to be an enjoyable experience, because this is a heavier game. So, you just wouldn't want it to drag.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so moving on to accessibility. So there are a lot of moving parts here. Mobility might be an issue for, well, those with mobility challenges. You've got cards you're dealing with, you've got resource tracks, upgrade tokens are moving around. So just, I guess, be aware of that if you might have issues with your hands or moving things around. There were a few issues where the rules weren't clear. Inspiration, just the sentences weren't as clear as it could be. It's when you can upgrade the upgrade section. It just...
See, that in itself sounds funny.
Yeah, so there were also points where their terminology could have been a little more unique rather than calling several things the same thing.
Yeah, but essentially what happens is you have a board and you have tokens that are considered upgrade tokens.
Right.
You'll want to remove them to reveal the items that are printed on the board underneath. Most of the time when you do that, from then on out, you have access to that ability,
right,
and it becomes better. However, the upgrade action to enable you to take off the tokens has a different icon, which is like a light bulb.
Yes.
And so that's the inspiration. When you reveal it, you do it once and that's it.
Right.
And that isn't very clear in the instructions.
Right. It sounds like that's like the other actions, a improvement to the upgrade action that would happen every time, but it's not. It's literally, there's 3 tokens. You can only do it 3 times in the game.
Yeah,
it's very powerful.
And another interpretation is like, well, anytime I do an upgrade action, just removing it lets me do what turned out to be just the light bulb action,
right,
too.
Right.
And that's not the case.
Yeah. So that was a little confusing. And then for us learning the 2-player changes, because it kind of got, it's all smushed with the solo, they only made one graphic that shows you how to play solo and 2-player. And it was just really hard for me, because Will can't see it. It was hard for me to parse what part of it was for solo and what part of it was for 2-player. And the instructions above the chart, graph, whatever, wasn't that clear. So again, it's nothing that really completely stopped us from playing the game, just slowed us down because things weren't clear in all places.
Right.
And speaking of that, some of the iconography also wasn't very intuitive. Most of it is on the back of the rules. However, the classroom iconography is on page 20 in the middle of the rule book, and it's not anywhere else. That should have been either an extra sheet, like the inventors are an extra sheet, or printed on the back, or at least on the inside back. So I don't have to flip through to find page 20 where all the classrooms are explained.
Right.
This is cognitively dense, so this has a high learning curve. This is not a light game, so that's just something to be, aware of. This was a bit of a problem for me, not so much Will, the constant need for what Will calls simple math. And yeah, I guess it's somewhat simple, but it was hard for me to keep in my head.
She only has 10 fingers after all.
Oh, it's just you're constantly adding up things and trying to figure out what your total is for energy. And as you're spending it, do I still have the right energy? And do I have the right number of resources? So it's just... it can get overwhelming for those who have mathematical challenges. Not a whole lot I can do to help other than I was about to grab some dice to at least keep track of energy. Although they do have a little arrow that you could put on the resource row to keep a track of your energy. But I'm not sure that if I had tried that, it would have really helped me.
And it only comes up in 2 actions, the upgrade and the building a robot, because that's the only time you actually spend energy. Mm-hmm. On the other 3 actions, you have X number of energy, and you just check to see if you qualify for a thing.
It's
you don't actually spend it.
It's a threshold.
Yes.
You have to meet this threshold to be able to do these actions in your tableau.
And they kept it to a point where nothing goes above 7.
That is true. That is true.
So if you got 7, you can do everything in there.
Exactly. For colorblind, I was a little concerned that there is orange and red. But once you sort all the pieces, it doesn't really matter because all your colored pieces stay on your board. So color doesn't really matter because there's no victory point track that you have to keep track of whose is whose or anything else like that. Your player pawn moves around your personal board. So It's not a big deal. If you are sorting your box for the first time, just hopefully you can find someone who can double check, is this orange, is this red, if that's a issue for you. So what it does right...
One other thing is this will be an issue if you get a first edition of the game. They did make a change to the player boards. So for the design action, level 1 power, on the first edition, it just says you get a program resource. But in their updated rules...
for the second edition.
For the second edition, and I think they're doing a Kickstarter where they're offering stickers.
Right.
You instead could have a choice between a program or drawing a card. We played that with the second time we played. That made a huge difference.
Yes, that was a very good change. And we have a first edition. We don't have the sticker or anything to modify it. It's relatively easy to remember, even with all the other things going on. So if you do end up with a first edition and your printed board only shows the resource icon and not resource icon or card, just remember that that's an option because card drawing was severely lacking in our first game, and you need cards to fuel a lot of how you do things in the game.
Yeah, made a huge impact.
Yeah. So good call on that. Forgot about that.
All right. What is right accessibility?
For accessibility, on the good side, it has very distinct icons, so things do not get mixed up, or, everything's distinct. Like I said before, there were arrow tokens. Two of them are used to track your classroom advancement, but you can use one to track your current energy level. I think I did try a couple of times, but I didn't find it the most helpful, mostly because the resource track has so many other tokens on it too. I think for me, when we play it again, if I get overwhelmed by math, I will probably pick up a die, and that will help me track how much energy I have. And as I
also have a little wooden abacus.
Yeah, we could always use that.
Yeah.
So it does include attempts at helping you with that energy level. Good contrast on the cards. The text is easy to read. The resources are different shapes. So there's a lot of really good things that they did.
And the shapes include whether you get the retail version and it's just chipboard, or the deluxe version, which is meeples.
Yeah, the wooden pieces.
Yeah,
that's
they're
true.
both shaped.
Right, because we have the deluxe version. So although we got both, didn't we, in the box?
Yes, that's how we know that
right.
they're shaped regardless of whether you get retail or not.
Right. So those work out really well. There are references on the back of the rules, and there's a separate sheet for the inventor. Just would have wished there was something for the classrooms too. Most of the game is open information. You are supposed to keep your phase cards secret until revealed, and Will was able to do that because he kept his cards in order.
Yeah, you only have 5 cards, and so as long as you keep them in order, because they will resolve in a particular order.
Right.
So I kept them in that order, so I always knew, it was always upgrade, then build, then design, then fabricate, then recycle.
Yep.
That order, I always knew where the cards were, so then when I pulled them back and put them back in my hand, I just organize them. Right.
I guess your robot cards in your hand are also supposed to be kept secret, but we found I can't have, well, at least for me, I have so many robot cards in my hand, I'm not going to pay attention to what he has. And it's not like I could stop him anyways, because the game is mostly multiplayer solitaire.
Yeah.
Other than helping each other with the shared energy, and there you're just hoping the other players put energy out on the board so you can do more actions. There's no real interaction between the players.
Right.
So knowing what someone else has isn't going to help you. In fact, if anything, if you really try to pay attention, you'll probably forget what you have in your hand. It'll be a distraction more than anything. All right. I think that covers everything. So conclusion.
2 players, would you recommend?
I think it is fun. I personally wish the player interaction aspect was stronger in a 2-player game, but I think they do a pretty good job with the quasi-bot to at least help it be better than it would be without it, and they keep it simple enough. So anybody who's watched for a while knows I don't really like bots. I think this one does a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine. The player level or player interaction, I don't need Sarah coming in mucking up my...
Well, no, that's not the player
area.
interaction I want. I want more energy out on the board.
Well, you just want more of everything.
Well, that's true. I want to be able to do more in the game.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
In fact, there are some inventor cards, which are asymmetric powers, that could actually let her do that. In fact,
Yeah.
I played one. It's just rated hard, so she's like, no, thank you.
Well, we were doing learning games, and the game is difficult to start with, but yes.
But that's actually why
Right.
I would recommend 2 players, is because 2 players does make this game easier to learn.
Agreed.
Because there is so much going on.
Agreed.
All right, accessibility.
I think it's going to be mostly good. I think the complexity is probably going to be the most challenging aspect of this game. I think they did a really good job otherwise with the vision accessibility, having shaped pieces. Like I said, the orange and red, but when you keep everything on your own board, it almost doesn't matter. Everyone could have had blue pieces, because I like blue, or white pieces, or black. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
So...
Yeah, accessibility, I thought there was going to be a bigger issue when it came to any hidden components,
Right.
but honestly, the robots are probably the biggest thing that can be kept secret, and that doesn't matter if the other person knows.
Right.
In fact, once I show Sarah, she just wants to immediately shove it out of her brain
Right.
because she's too busy with all the robots in her hand.
Exactly.
So accessibility, fairly well, just complex like Sarah said.
Huh?
All right. And that'll do it for us. And Sarah,
Yes.
one thing that I did hear, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people have heard, is this game is a cross-section between Roll for the Galaxy and... Race for the Galaxy. Race for the Galaxy and Wingspan.
Yes.
Would you say that is a good...
Yeah.
Compare our good wording.
As long as you know which aspects, so like from Race or even Roll for the Galaxy, what it's taking there is the role selection aspect. So if you really want to go way back into older games, you could also say that's from Puerto Rico. And I'm sure other games that I'm not remembering right now that role selection was a major aspect of it. So for Raising Robots, that again is a major aspect. Not so much that it automatically means everybody's doing all the phases that were selected, but if energy gets put out on the board, then you can try to do a few things. And I really like that positive player interaction aspect of it. And then when it comes to Wingspan or Wormspan, you are building a tableau, and you do have 3 rows, just like Wingspan and Wormspan. But how things resolve is very different, because in Wingspan and Wormspan, you're picking 1 row on your turn, basically, and you actually resolve from right to left in the Wingspan, Wormspan. But here you're doing it from left to right, and also there's an energy level, so things are resolving differently. I also appreciated that in Raising Robots here, things aren't so reliant on other cards. Like the robots are much more independent of each other.
Yeah.
You do have some synergies, but you're not reliant on, oh, well, you have to randomly flip up a card and it has to have a, like when a wingspan of such size. So there's aspects that it does draw on that are similar, but not exactly. But for a general comparison of just trying to introduce it to someone, I think it is a good way to start off.
Yeah, when I heard that, I was like, oh, are we just going to get lifted mechanics? But no, what we get are vibes of both those games, and this game definitely makes it its own.
Yes, very much so.
Because after playing it, I was like, no, that doesn't feel anything like those 2 games. But I can understand where it comes from because it captures the vibes of role selection. It captures the vibe of how Wingspan went about its tableau building.
Yes, exactly.
But Raising Robots is definitely its own beast.
Agreed.
All right. And why would you ever roll with just one when you can be
rolling with 2?
If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out to us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with 2, that's TWO. We're on Blue Sky, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Discord, we have a channel on Tabletop Express. Check the show notes for the invite link.
If you have time, check out the other content Nanaman has found for you, because remember, he's rolling with you.